How you going, everybody? Good morning. Welcome to this Friday edition of the NFL Brekkie Show, live from Radio Row in Las Vegas as we inch closer to Super Bowl 58. Laurie Horesh, Phil Murphy, Niners, Chiefs. Laz, this has been by far the busiest day of Radio Row. Stars abound. You can't turn your head without seeing an NFL superstar of today or yesterday.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we've got Jamar Chase and T. Higgins have been around.
Yep.
Presumptive Offensive Rookie of the Year, C.J. Stroud. Micah Parsons is in the building. Josh Allen is in the building.
Deion Sanders.
Joe
Montana.
DeMarcus Ware is in the building. Someone
Jordan Mailata.
Both our house. Yes, Jordan Mailata, who Phil spoke to in a great conversation. Then I spoke to in a bit of giggles and maybe some Tim Tams.
Jeremy Fowler.
Jeremy Fowler. Dan Graziano is in the building. So the inside knowledge is here. There's a bunch of Hall of Famers. Dan the Man Marino has been here this week. Joe Montana. Jerry Wright. Joe Montana was today. Jerry Rice was yesterday.
Aiden Hutchinson, I can see him right there.
There you go. I know Brian Branch, Jalen Waddle.
Yeah.
It's
the epicenter of the NFL universe.
It's unbelievable. Right? It's the who's who are here. It's an absolute privilege and an honor to be here, especially next to you. Looking resplendent in an NFL Jam number.
Yes, and I mean, this isn't just because I bear it for the Broncos. It is germane to this conversation. I think Christian McCaffrey has a great chance to win MVP of this game. The last running back to win a Super Bowl MVP, this guy here, Terrell Davis, Super Bowl 32 of my beloved mighty Denver Broncos. Also, the last rushing champ to win a Super Bowl, which he did the following year, Super Bowl 33. McCaffrey looking to snap that skid as well. So, Laz, for us, I'm about to head up the strip to shoot NFL Blitz this morning with Louis Riddick. That'll be coming up, in a matter of hours on ESPN, and then we have 2 more shows throughout the week. So our gears shift that as we continue our preview on the TV side. But yeah, Laz, soaking it all in as we get this, we're not going to have the same concentration of NFL stars where, you literally can't poke your head up without seeing one of the game's greats.
I did a walk around before with our colleague Jared, who's in town helping JT, Las Vegas native at the moment. Yeah. Your breath gets caught just walking around. Oh, there's Max Crosby. Oh, there's Matt Ryan. Like MVP's here, Defensive Players of the Year here, Hall of Fame is here. It's something to behold, and I hope we can help this week bring you guys inside the ropes or inside the white walls that they have around here, where all the radio stations, the streaming stations,
like
TV channels.
It feels like you have to kind of hop over the boards to get into the game.
And as we know, I am an expert in ice hockey.
We did bring you to a game the other day.
You did, and I wore a Mighty Ducks jersey. I was incredibly mature about it. But it is getting to that time. This is the peak day here on Radio Row. Thursday here, Friday back home. The buzz is incredible. I've had goosebumps all day. But it is our time, as you can read, the lower third down the strap. It says last gasp, Super Bowl preview, Chiefs versus 49ers. They're the 2 teams playing. We've talked about them just a little bit. We're going to throw back and forth with what each team must do. The one big thing, to borrow from another esteemed colleague at ESPN.
Best thing I saw today was.
So one big thing that each team needs to take care of, or is going to be a decisive factor in them getting that Lombardi raised and walking out of here happy chappies and not sad faces.
And I would say, if you have your keys for these teams, there's one big thing. Send them along in the chat. Feel free to get your predictions fire away. This is the time when you can really stake your claim and say, if you do get your tip right, by the way, Puka Nacua walking there, fantasy superstar and
wearing
league winner.
Glorious pants. It's a fantastic pant he's offering.
Oh, you're not wrong.
There's some flow to it. We're moving away from the really tight fitting, the skin tight era. Yeah, thank God. Even in fighting form, and it's been a minute since then, but even in fighting form, these tree trunks did not handle the skin tight jeans. I remember going and trying to pick up a pair of Cheap Mondays back when Cheap Mondays was just a little shop in Bondi back home. Even in fighting form, I couldn't get the old tree trunks into those. So big thanks to the likes of Puka Nacua who are setting the fashion stakes. Bring the flow back.
Yeah, so Laz, this is we said you had one job, is what we're calling this segment. And each of these teams, what they need to do to win. And again, if you had one job for either the Chiefs or the 49ers, fire them away. If you have a hot take, a prediction, this is the people's show.
That is a hot take.
Both teams may lose this game. Does that mean nobody wins, or does that mean each team has an avenue to lose?
Look, I think we're getting into the week. People have probably talked so much about this football contest we have coming up that it's starting to get a little existential out here.
Yes.
And people are starting a little philosophical. maybe ecumenical. I don't know what that word is. Hopefully it was a safe one to say. That's where we're at, though. But it's time to, yeah. Do we have a second dump on the Brekkie show? But we hope you're enjoying your breakfast. We hope you've got a nice coffee in front of you, tea if that's what you go with, Earl Grey, oolong, whatever your flavor is, and settling in for just a nice little bit of where we're at, what needs to happen. So let's start this thing off. We know we've mentioned in previous shows, no spoilers, some spoilers, a little bit of spoilers. Phil is leaning the way of the Bay. Was it Bang Bang 9 again? And then me turning towards the present day go, the future go, the current go, forever go. Maybe not forever, we'll see. Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, and most importantly, that defense as well. That's where I'm leaning towards. So let's have a little look at. Let's start with the 49ers. What must they do? What's the one thing that when you see the 49ers lifting Lombardi, what's the one key that gets them on that road?
For me, above all else, it's keeping Patrick Mahomes off schedule. We know about the Mahomes magic, where he seems to be covered up and there's no way out, and he finds a way to run toward the sideline, throw over the middle of the field against his body, all the things a quarterback shouldn't do, yet finds a way to move the sticks, get a touchdown, change games. He has that reputation. It's well earned. But if you look at his playoff career, Patrick Mahomes is 14-3 as a playoff starter. When he holds the ball, on average, on passes, less than 3 seconds, he's 13-0. When that number is longer than 3 seconds, on average, he's 1-3. That means all 3 of his losses are in his 4 games in which he has the longest average release time. If you consistently get him off schedule, despite the moments of magic, it is the best way to limit this offense in a game in which I believe points will be at a premium. I think San Francisco's ability to pressure the quarterback by sending just 4, dropping 7, keeping Mahomes off schedule is their biggest, is the thing they must do, the one job they have. Since acquiring Chase Young in week 9, they blitz at a lower percentage of frequency. Their sack percentage and their pressure percentage has gone up. They've gotten better in that facet of the game as the season's gone on. So all that tells me if San Francisco's defensive line has a big day, maybe not with prolific sacks, certainly that would help, but even the type of game that the Eagles had last year, they pressured Patrick Mahomes 20 times on 50 dropbacks. Those 20 pressures, only Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady Super Bowl 51, which took a 28-3 comeback, those are the only 2 quarterbacks to be pressured 20 times in a Super Bowl and win. Pressure Mahomes, keep him off schedule. That is your one job, San Francisco.
We're going to get back to that battle of line of scrimmage when San Francisco defense is on the field and the Chiefs offense on the field in just a minute. For me, San Francisco, the one thing is clear. The one thing you must do is bona fide. Put on the tape what the Baltimore Ravens did against the Kansas City Chiefs and do the opposite. You need to run the ball. You have been a top 5, top 3 offense in all of these categories. Total rushing yards before contact, rushing yards before contact per rush, per attempt, rushing yards after contact per attempt. You are a phenomenal running game, a phenomenal rushing team. We don't need to tell you that. You know it. Kyle Shanahan's your head coach for a reason. The designs, the angles, the buy-in that you talked about earlier this week from the wide receivers in terms of blocking, what you get from Debo and Debo Jennings will throw himself in there. Big bodies out there. Make sure you run the ball. Do not get one-dimensional against the man they call Spags. That is it. That is curtains. If you are seeing what Lamar Jackson did from Brock Purdy, deep drops, aiming downfield in obvious passing scenarios and in scenarios where you know you have an advantage in the run game to get after it and to get that ball on the ground into the hands of Christian McCaffrey or Deebo Samuel or if you're turning to back there, there's no shortage of rushing talent on this team. They cannot come out of this game whilst we credit Brock Purdy's ability to scramble, particularly in that last game in Detroit, and take what the defense gave him, where those lanes were open to get those big conversions in that second half. He cannot have a stat line similar to Lamar Jackson when he's challenging for the rushing total, the total rushing attempts lead on his own team. Do not do it. Watch what the Ravens did. Watch how they were incredibly complicit in the end of their own campaign. Go the other direction. Maintain your balance, because if you drop back and try and fire on Spags and that secondary, some of those linebackers that we talked about this week, it's not going to end well, and it's certainly not going to be efficient.
And something that the 49ers do, we see the pre-snap motion. Only the Dolphins have that pre-snap, at-the-snap motion more frequently than does San Francisco. What's interesting about San Francisco is the pre-snap motion is not the guy in motion is typically not the focus of that play. He's a complement to it. Giving the ball to the guy in motion, they do it at the 5th lowest rate in the NFL, despite at the highest. You're going to see a lot of Kyle Juszczyk moving in the backfield, and I'm doing a lot of radio this week. I have friends across all the different radio networks. SCN, shout them out. Triple M for me in the backfield for the 49ers. McCaffrey, Mitchell, Mason. Triple M needs to get their touches. Laz, it's funny, as we were kind of just conceptualizing all the different ways and things, figuring this out. You and I, a lot of the time, we just talk ball. And then in that, we figure out a show. For me, the key for Kansas City, I feel bad doing it, stop the run. I said it's got to be stop the run. This is a Kansas City team, and this complements your point. Kansas City, 24th in the NFL in yards per carry allowed. This against the San Francisco offense that was third most in the NFL in total rush yards over the course of the season. If the 49ers can get going downhill, keep the ball out of Patrick Mahomes' hands. Listen, I know this isn't the Chiefs' offense we saw with Tyreek Hill when these teams played last. It wasn't the Chiefs' offense of last year. But in the playoffs, we saw enough that Mahomes' magic has not gone anywhere. And his ability to throw deep has come back. And Travis Kelce seems to have found the fountain of youth. All of those advantages and assets this offense has goes away if Patrick Mahomes is on the sideline. And if you end up with a Christian McCaffrey stat line of 21 carries, 95 yards, I don't care how many touchdowns. If Mitchell's getting, 7-8 carries and Deebo Samuel will get a couple here or there, if San Francisco is able to play keep away, continuing to move the ball forward, it's really going to inhibit Kansas City's ability to win this game, despite all the momentum we see from, I don't know, it just seems like the general public and general populace behind Kansas City, despite being underdogs in this game. ESPN's experts, 64 of them surveyed, 49-15 in favor of Kansas City in this game. I know you're on that side. I disagree with it, but also they're 52-12 on the over. You and I are both on the under. So I might be on an island here, but I think this is going to be a low-scoring game. If this is a time of possession, a 38-22 scenario in San Francisco's favor, I'm going to go print my ticket at the window. San Francisco is going to be your Super Bowl champ.
We've just spent a bit of time talking about the rushing side of things. With San Francisco have the ball, Kansas City Chiefs' ability to stop it. John has his take coming in. Rather than bet the 49ers to win, bet CMC or Deebo, Super Bowl MVP. Go Seahawks. But that's, again, what we talked about yesterday.
Deebo's $26, Christian McCaffrey's $5.
So add it together. That's 31.
31.
Split it.
And split it again. $7.75. Not bad. The there's the Brock Purdy element there. And, we're going to talk about this later this week on Blitz with Dan Orlovsky, who is the mayor of the non-game manager campaign for Brock Purdy, with a lot of statistical support. But I think that could be a reputation that's broken if Purdy leads a game-winning drive like he had to against the Lions and the Packers. Another one of those. Again, the Super Bowl MVP has gone to the winner of the winning team 7 times in the last 11 years. But, John, I like where your head's at. Getting a little outside the box with the MVP award. No running back has won it since Terrell Davis, Super Bowl 32, which is staggering to me. Receivers a little bit more common, and the way Deebo can impact the game, catching, running, and blocking, he has a real shout at $26.
Who knows? Maybe Kyle gets frisky and throws him out there on a return as well. You never know. He's got that skill set. While we're talking about former QBs and now QB analysts or analysts in general, Alex Smith, who said, I believe he referred to himself as the unofficial chief of the game managers club, said about Brock Purdy, he's not one of us.
He's at the door with the clipboard. You're not allowed in the club.
Absolutely. Not too long till, the black T-shirts come back out again. Yeah. The clipboards.
Hey, Super Bowl, the club SB 5-8. I think both of these teams were in the club. Mm-hmm. And in our Super Bowl preview draft, that's still alive. My first overall pick was the 49ers. Your first pick of round 2 was the Chiefs.
It was indeed. I went AFC to start.
You went Baltimore, Kansas City, which wasn't a bad shout, given those are the 2 teams in the AFC Championship game.
So close to a Horesh sweep. If Detroit hold that lead, it's a Horesh sweep. Yeah. Undefeated in
wins,
drafts.
Losses, and almost wins. If the Cowboys had that, their history would be a lot more rich in the last 3 decades. Yet
the
here we are.
split between us is amazing. You are yet to be defeated in propaganda and its previous iterations.
Yes, popular demand now.
Popular demand now. Previous iteration was propaganda. You have yet to be victorious in a Super Bowl champion draft.
Until Monday morning, past 10 a.m. on ESPN when the Mighty 49ers win by a score of 23-20.
That's fine. You can be a victor Monday morning. We'll be the victors Monday afternoon when it's all settled and the smoke is cleared. For me, it's about smoke clearing up that pocket for Patrick Mahomes. That has been a theme in the second half of the season for the Kansas City Chiefs. So looking at the numbers yesterday, looking at pass rush win rate and pass blocking, the stats provided by ESPN Stats and Info and True Media. In the first half of the season, the San Francisco 49ers are in the top dozen teams in terms of pass blocking, and they're not known as a complete offensive line or a finesse offensive line, certainly a lot of power and brute strength up front. Kansas City Chiefs were down in the late teens towards number 20, flirting with the bottom third. That has flipped in the second half of the season. It is the San Francisco 49ers ranked 21st in the second half of the regular season. The Kansas City Chiefs jumped to the top 10 in terms of pass blocking as a unit, and that's only continued in the playoffs where they've done a really good job keeping Patrick Mahomes upright and clean. They have to do that. That has to maintain, because whilst Brock Purdy has some really impressive numbers, you were ripping them off when we were talking before the show, how he ranks against pressure. Whole lot of ones in that conversation.
Ones and twos.
Yeah, whole lot of ones and twos. What we saw from Patrick Mahomes is actually a bit more of a drop-off. If I pull that up just quickly, looking at the quarterback passing when pressured. So on plays that they're pressured, this was during the regular season.
Who's number one? EPA per play.
Number one EPA per play would be the man known as Brock.
Number 3 is your league MVP, Lamar Jackson.
Number
Josh
2.
Allen, number 4.
Number 2 are your second-team All-Pro, Rain Dakota Prescott.
Yes.
Soon-to-be
former Bronco QB, Russell Wilson, number 6.
Telling Jordan Mailata that Dak Prescott's name is Rain Dakota.
Yes.
And him being absolutely flabbergasted.
Yeah.
And then figuring out where
that word association was a lot of fun to watch. I don't want to spoil it, but my favorite was the one that led off, Micah Parsons.
Look, when Aussie athletes go over to the United States, zoom in here. I know we actually can't zoom in here, but I'm just talking like,
okay. Doing the IG bit.
Look,
come in right.
Listen here for a second. When we send Aussie athletes over to the United States, it's a long-running measuring stick where we gauge how long it takes for the accent to fade, the Aussiness to fade, how quickly the American twang comes in. Ben Simmons happened rather quickly.
Yeah.
Patty Mills, Joe Ingles retained with strength. And
Dyson Daniels is holding strong.
Yes, Dyson, especially for someone who went over pretty young.
Yeah. Mitch Wisnowski, I think the West Coast is helping him.
Mitch Wisnowski is coming from a strong background.
Yes.
Yeah, the accent. He was not dealing with...
good pedigree.
Yeah, he was not dealing with a prissy accent like one Lawrence Horesh sitting right here. I will say that the Aussiness is retained in Jordan Mailata.
Yeah.
His first response is about as Aussie as it comes. That one will be up on social in the next 24 hours. We'll get that out. Word association in the NFC East. Some good fun there with Jordan. And then Phil's longer chat with him as well. I mentioned before, Phil with the phenomenal journalistic effort. And then me, well, let's just say the candor of our chat probably matched the candor of my shirt today.
Yes.
Would that be fair?
Yeah, fair enough.
Back to what we were talking about. Patrick Mahomes, 10th in the league. EPA per play when under pressure. Not bad, but not the greatest of all time.
Yeah. And it's, well, Laz, you and I are you had one job. It's like they come in to meet HR and we give 2 points of emphasis that are really the same thing.
Yeah. What's they're the same picture?
Like, it's son, that's the exact same picture. San Francisco, if they establish the run, they get going, not just establish the run, but have success in the running game. It needs curtains for KC. And if Kansas City, if they can't keep Patrick Mahomes upright, San Francisco gets the win. So or keep him at least, on schedule, protect him, have him endure duress. It's more important, it seems, statistically, that Mahomes avoid those pressure situations than it is for Brock Purdy.
We're about halfway through our show, and we want some of your takes coming in, some of your final predictions. Fire them up. You never know. We might even turn on the hot take hotline one last time from Radio Row.
Sizzle up the griddle.
Oh, yes. But what I will say is just as we're sitting here talking, we're talking about what needs to happen, what could be absolutely pivotal. I don't like to be so reductive with a real inside baseball. You're really peeling back the curtains there.
You don't like to be reductive?
I don't want to be reductive.
You enjoy that more than anything.
I don't want to be reductive. But I will say, we know, while we're talking about pivotal points, we know the yak ability of Deebo Samuel.
Uh-huh.
Christian McCaffrey, a slippery type of yak ability, not to diminish his power. Brandon Ayuk, no slouch. The physical battle, the tackling that we need to see from the Chiefs secondary is going to be absolutely from both sides. But looking at that battle, what we've seen from L'Jarius Sneed, what we've seen from the safeties, what we've seen from Trent McDuffie, what we've seen from Nick Bolton, the tackling ability of that Chiefs team to match the physicality that skill position group, George Kittle, Kyle Juszczyk out in space, not someone you want to meet with room to, I won't say room to wiggle, he's got some wiggle, but room to lower the boom on you.
Christian Juszczyk's husband.
If you start, exactly, very nice.
As I call him.
If you start to see the Kansas City Chiefs defense falling off tackles, if you start to see that yak number rise, it is going to spell trouble for the Chiefs because they're too talented. It's one thing to give up a reception. It's one thing to allow Christian McCaffrey to reach the line of scrimmage without being hampered, disrupted in the backfield. But when you start to multiply that, the pain, the down and distance battle, and getting behind the chains is exponential. This team averages 5 yards a clip on the ground. Their rushing success rate is near the top of the league. Their yards after catch success rate, or the yards after catch, we've talked about it, is well known. You simply cannot allow that to provide extra first downs and extend drives. The San Francisco 49ers, far too talented, give them nothing free.
And Laws, I think both teams, that should be a point of emphasis. The Chiefs, as much, trust me, I'm not calling Patrick Mahomes a game manager, but it's funny to me, as much as that stigma is against Brock Purdy, Patrick Mahomes led the NFL in screens this year, 95 completed screen passes. He's had the shortest average air yards of his career. And even in the last Super Bowl win, his average air yards per attempt were the lowest in what is soon to be his 4th Super Bowl appearance. The Chiefs are top 4 in the NFL in QBR, Patrick Mahomes, and first down percentage on screen passes. The 49ers are bottom 5 in the NFL defending screens. So whilst we talk about the importance of limiting the 49ers yak, if the Chiefs can have a productive screen game, which many other teams have had against the 49ers, it really does allow them to have kind of that run game extended, as we call them, the long handoffs.
Correct.
Irrespective of who it is, Isaiah Pacheco out of the backfield, or Marcus Valdez-Scantling, or Rashee Rice, or any of these guys, tunnel screens, bubble screens, whatever it might be, the screen pass is an undeniable part of the Chiefs' passing game. Now you couple that with Mahomes' deep ball returning to form. It had not been there at all in the regular season. Found second life in the playoffs. That makes this Chiefs offense so dangerous and gets us away from a Chiefs team that their ceiling felt like 22 to 23 to 24 points throughout the regular season. So the ability, it's kind of hard to make screen passes fall incomplete. It's almost a defensive win when they're caught and tackled immediately. But the yards after the catch on those screens will deter, if they're limited, will deter Kansas City from going to that well so often. So I don't think it's exclusively a Kansas City priority to limit the yards after the catch.
See, at its core, this game is about tackling. So it resonates.
Whoever scores more, I like their odds.
Tends to win the game.
Yeah.
All right. Well, definitely want your predictions. We want score predictions. Drop them in the channel. Drop them in the comment section. We'll bring them up on screen with score predictions. If you've got any final burning questions that are sitting there that you want answered, or burning takes that you want to throw out there ahead of this one.
Did you post anything on Threads? I can check that.
Thanks for that.
No?
What I will say is that what we're going to do momentarily here, because it is our last show here from Radio Row in Las Vegas for the week. Phil's having a lot of fun. Is that AI?
That's AI.
Yeah, Phil's having a lot of fun typing 49ers Super Bowl and certain terms into AI and seeing what happens.
Brock Purdy apparently breaks 6 tackles on a game-winning scramble, and then his arm turns into the Lombardi trophy.
But as this is our last show.
Sorry for the spoiler alert.
As this is our last show, we're also going to take time to reflect. It's our last gasp, but we're going to use part of that last gasp to reflect a little backwards.
Oh, okay.
Go back to a little preseason thoughts.
Chubbs Peterson moment? Rest in power?
Rest in power. Chubbs Peterson. One of the formative characters of my childhood. Carl Weathers. Rocky 1, 2, 3, 4.
Which one did he die in?
4.
So yeah.
What I would like to say, and what I'd like to throw out there, is we're going to look back at some of our preseason takes. We've both got some props that we laid down, and we also have some theoretical wonderings that were thrown out there. So I'm just going to pull those up here. Would you like to start with some of our preseason popular demands, and how they aged, or would you like to look at your ifs, ands, or buts?
I don't hate mine. I went 1 and 2, but my one that hit was a $3 bet, so I broke even. Right?
Correct. Yes.
So I had Tyreek Hill over 1,500 receiving yards at $3. That hit by week 12. If he hadn't been injured, he would have been Tyreek 2K. The ones that I lost, Kirk Cousins over 30 pass TDs, he was on his way until he tore his Achilles. And Washington, lowest scoring team at $10, they were far from that, but they fired their coach and fired their offensive coordinator. So
it wasn't because of consistent performance, that's for sure.
Yeah.
For me, I had the Dolphins being the highest scoring team, and that was a juicy odds, and they just get pipped.
$21.
21-1, and they just get pipped, of course, by the Dallas Cowboys. Thanks, Dallas.
Rain to go to Prescott.
The Lions to miss the playoffs aged phenomenally. Really was. I don't want to say I was trying to be contrarian.
There was a moment in there where you worried, or I worried because I picked to win the NFC North. But there was a moment in there when they had lost that game to the Bears.
Yeah, when the defense was on that
needed to come back
run
against the Bears. And you're looking at, man, they got to play the Vikings twice. The Vikings randomly in form.
Yeah, but that one did not age so well. What
No.
did age well was DJ Moore at 1,000+ yards. This was a mortal lock from the start.
Yeah.
And it'll be fascinating to see how DJ Moore and that relationship grows. So
6 wagers, we're up 50 cents as a team.
And there was some, some close calls and injury.
You do that 9 times, you got a meat pie.
You, sir, have some ifs and or
420
buts
style.
that you'd like to point to and like to bring up.
Yeah, so we had a segment called If, Ands, or Buts. Laurie can't contribute because his are not in the cloud. My if, ands, or buts went 0-3. My if, Tua Tagovailoa, if he's the starting quarterback in Week 16, Miami wins the AFC East. He was the starting quarterback in Week 16. Miami should have won the AFC East, but they stumbled at the finish line, ultimately cost them because they could not win in Kansas City ground, hence why we have Patrick Mahomes on a screaming banner above our heads, not Tua Tagovailoa doing the same. So my if did not hit. My and was not close. Derek Carr will throw for 4,000 yards, and the Saints will win the NFC South, and they will win a playoff game. Next pick. Butts.
This isn't the airing of grievances. This is just shaming ourselves, but it's not far off.
No. Again, popular demand, we were net positive.
Absolutely. We hope you joined us for it.
We were net positive on preseason popular demand. Brought to you by 10.
Mm-hmm.
My if, ands, or buts, my butt was the Lions will win the NFC North, but they will not snap their 32-year playoff win streak. Not only did they do that, they won twice, and they were up, 17 in the NFC Championship game? That almost aged horribly. Still 0 for 3 on if, ands, or buts, but no financial figures attached, so I don't feel so bad about it. Popular demand hit. Do you remember yours?
But
yeah,
there was,
I loosely remember mine.
I believe there was a tour conversation at some point, but I think that was something we both stepped on. There may have been a Kenny Pickett conversation at some point, but this is a while back. But what I do have here is because if you've got any preseason takes or midseason takes that age terribly, feel free to share them in the comment section. But for me, I'm going to look to one of our favorite segments that we do before the season starts. It's the first week of school special. Who got hot? Who got hot? Who returned from summer with the summer body, maybe the new fashion, the new frames, the new hairstyle, whatever it is.
I did not do good.
You've already touched on Derek Carr. We're not going to charge you for that crime
I doubled
twice.
down on that one.
Yeah. The Lions defense got hot. That was a solid take, then it was a bad take, and then it was a good take again. Yeah. For me, the Bears offense got hot. I think some seats got hot.
Yeah. Well, Justin Fields did enough to where for a moment, like Week 17,
and there was some health issues.
We said, is it a conversation that holding on to the number 1 pick, they would keep Fields, trade the pick away, build around Fields, and then Week 18 happened, and it seems like that's forgotten. They're going to go quarterback early in this draft. Justin Fields is going to get traded for a day 2 or early day 3 pick.
The Falcons secondary. This one was interesting because whilst the Falcons offense was an absolute mess and Arthur Smith dismissed from his post, you did see, we know who AJ Terrell is. We saw Clark Phillips get on the field late in that season, make an impact. We saw the safety position. Jesse Bates was an absolute slam dunk as a free agent addition. And for that franchise going forward, there's certainly some pieces. There's some cornerstone pieces. So while it wasn't, I think the fact that the offense was so disappointing under Arthur Smith with what the offensive line looked like on paper to go into the season, the weapons we know about, we spent a lot of oxygen on that, despite the limited amount of space, oxygen area that was able to be created for those players out on the field. The fact that they weren't able to be consistent throughout the season, I think didn't allow that promising defense to shine as much. But I will maintain that there are some really positive steps for that defense going into 2024. Look, it's not all, they're not all winners, but thankfully for us, for our big season, by and large, popular demand in particular has been more winners than anything. We are getting close.
We were like a hot pocket from hell. We were cold at the beginning.
We were. It was
piping hot in the middle.
Oh yes.
Like scalding.
I got back to basics. I stopped shopping in the 7-1 aisle.
We had 10 winning
10 straight weeks. It was
dangerously hot. And then plummeted back to earth at the end. Still ending net positive, but it's why, if you're going to have a hunt, do so responsibly. We're in Vegas. I need to remind myself of that for this evening.
I will say, what's going on this evening? I will say, before, when we are getting close to wrapping up here, so we've gone past the half-hour mark, we have Benny G. Great morning, gentlemen. Benny G, great to see you. Benny, if you've got one for us, if you've got a question you got of us, if you've got something you want to know about Radio Row, fire it on in. It's getting close to giving prediction time.
Yeah. Jordan Mailata almost just walked past us. I'm glad that he didn't, because he would have just eclipsed our light. That's a large human being.
He is. We were looking for him this morning.
Hard to miss.
And then it was pretty clear.
He's impossible to miss.
A phenomenal presence around.
Gentleman. Terrific guy.
I don't like to talk about what happens before the mics are hot and the camera's recording, but the big bear hug I got was one of the highlights.
No, we were recording.
Oh, it's on air.
Our ESPN Australia or our NFL Blitz.
Depending how flattering the lighting is, we will get that out on social media. But that was a very heartwarming moment. And just on Jordan for a sec, this is a disappointing end to the season for the Eagles. And I'm not saying that with glee, because as you guys who watch the show consistently know, BG, does Jordan Mailata fit the random South Sky bill? Yes, he certainly does.
He was actually here promoting rugby league.
He was.
There's the Telstra Premiership starting right here in Vegas, first weekend in March. Rapidos Sea Eagles, Roosters Broncos, a doubleheader here in Vegas.
But on that, what is so great about Radio Row is it does give you a chance to just get some FaceTime with these players. And we build narratives from afar, from really afar from some of us. We do build narratives from the outside and this is what the Eagles must be going to the season, or this is what, high-profile teams like the Cowboys or the Ravens who were soaring and crashed at shorter than met expectations. But getting to sit down with him, and here is someone whose team went from 10-1 to wiped out by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Baker Mayfield in the first round of the playoffs, and speaking so positively, so insightfully, also like showing his remembrance of people he hasn't seen in 4 years. And he is an absolute gentleman, but it's part of the absolute privilege of being out here. Phil, we are rounding the corner on time to give
I have an idea for a quick segment.
Oh, go hit me.
I'm a sneaker guy.
I do. I'm aware.
It's been tough in Vegas to flex the sneakers because it's been days of rain and loads of walking. Not good for a sneaker collection that has maxed out said sneaker collector budget.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm only able recently now to really get the sneakers going. If we had a segment in each other's shoes.
Okay.
Convince me the 49ers are going to win Super Bowl 58. I will convince you the Chiefs.
Here's why the San Francisco 49ers.
By the way, this is how we make this show.
Absolutely. This is exactly how it's done. The San Francisco 49ers will win the Super Bowl because ultimately their quarterback has a unique tier of motivation. Patrick Mahomes is exceptionally motivated. But it's not just Brock Purdy that is playing, in some ways, I think he'd admit, to get past the notions, the connotations that surround him as a game manager, as, any quarterback can succeed in it. Not just because Brock Purdy is playing for that, but I think you hear it from his teammates as well. I think that's something that we learn. I think when you speak to Brandon Ayuk, when you get the chance to hear what the defensive secretary has to say, what some of those players, what Charvarius Ward has to say, what Eric Armstead has to say about Brock Purdy, they have no shortage of belief. And they speak with an edge. Eric Armstead is very, very well-mannered, lovely guy to listen to speak to.
4-time Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee.
And not someone you expect to, you're not going to get a whole lot of, real nasty figure or vinegar, rather, in his voice and in his tone. But when you speak to these guys about Brock Purdy, you can sense there's an element of defensiveness and a massive motivation, not just for themselves, not just for the 49ers, but knowing what the conversation around their team is. Almost like there's this purpose-built dream team, and they're just constructed by numbers, and they've just slotted the latest little upgrade at quarterback in. So I think one of the reasons the San Francisco 49ers will win, and people are going to talk about revenge from 4 years ago, but that particular motivation, and then as well, I don't think there's a player that can shut down offensive snaps as quickly on the field. And I am a huge fan of Chris Jones. I've discussed that. Even George Karlaftis-Love. But Nick Bosa has the chance to erase drives quicker than anybody else out here on this field. His ability to win off the snap, both with his athleticism and his technique. So we have a Cowboy super fan walking past. Super Cowboy jersey number 87. There you go. But his ability to just steal possessions on a third down, just like that. I think it's odd that we don't spend more time talking about Bosa. Maybe it's his quiet nature in general. He's not the most outspoken person. We're getting some interesting philosophical conversations in the comments, so we'll bring those up in just a second. The viewers are rising, and the comment section, the Aussies are waking up. The comment section is heating up. But
flat white is kicking in.
Almond milk, skim milk.
Skim.
Must be nice. So I think on that topic, Nick Bosa, I don't think we talk about him as much as other players in that tier because he's not. I don't think he's as loud as Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons has a very public podcast show each week. I don't think he's as multifaceted and intriguing a character with his interests as someone like a Myles Garrett, who we know about his the dinosaurs and everything he's into off the paddock, his basketball highlights and all sorts of things. This is a renaissance man. But Bosa has an amazing set of skills to come in and steal possessions. And I think in this game, the ability to stop two drives on third down that we'd expect Mahomes to find an answer for just because Bosa is that good to beat his man one-on-one off the snap. And we know they're going to be able to get in position to get him those one-on-one matchups and get him on an island. Those are some of the reasons why I'd look towards some individual factors. We can look towards why I can convince you the San Francisco 49ers is going to win. Now the shoes are flipped. The box has been opened. You've unboxed. You've put that on Instagram and TikTok. Twitter maybe too. You're putting the Kansas City Chiefs shoes on now. You convinced me why the Kansas City Chiefs will win this
one. I don't think they're going to win.
So you put me up first.
No.
Put me up first.
I won't do that to you. Although it was available. So the Chiefs will win for two reasons. One, Isaiah Pacheco is the best rainy day running back in the NFL. I've said about Mike Tomlin, the adage, chicken you know what to chicken salad. Mike Tomlin, I'm sure, makes a mean chicken salad.
Indeed.
God bless him. You look at that offense, it's anemic, and he finds a way. The team's 10-7,
Correct.
9-8 every year. The guy just doesn't have a losing record. And when he has a capable quarterback and a capable offense, he can get you to a Super Bowl, Mike Tomlin. Isaiah Pacheco's kind of like that as a running back. He is above the league average, well above the league average when there are 8 men in the box. When he's running to the weak side, when his team doesn't have the blocking advantage, he's 1.6, 2.1 yards above average in that. But one that blows me away, when Isaiah Pacheco is contacted in the backfield, he averages 1.3 yards per carry. When an opposing D lineman who has a size advantage on him beats his blocker, makes contact with Pacheco behind the line of scrimmage, Pacheco still averages almost 1.5 yards per carry. That is 2 yards better than the average running back in the NFL. That frustrates opposing defenses. And that's the type of thing where 3rd and 2, you think you have somebody stopped, fresh set of downs. It is hard not to be demoralized. You couple that with Patrick Mahomes, who is the gold standard for quarterback play, especially high leverage quarterback. And for all those reasons, Laurie, the Chiefs will beat the 49ers.
There's been a Super Bowl in the past. Ravens, 49ers.
Super Bowl 47.
Where a power surge caused an absolute blackout.
Yeah.
And there was a delay in the middle of the game.
You know, that would have been a hell of a bit for me to not give my Chiefs take.
But the way that you got out of it was just ripping the cords out. Folks, we told you we were going to give you the authentic Super Bowl experience from Radio Row. And a power surge around us took out the lights, took out the camera, took out the computer, and restored it. But thank you for staying with us. Because we
took out my argument for the Chiefs to win. But sincerely, I do think the 49ers will win this game 23-20.
And I believe the Kansas City Chiefs will win this game 26-20. We're both on the under. We've got a few more questions here. Guys, thanks for staying through us. Those are, we said, authentic Super Bowl experience from Radio Row. And we delivered that because how many other streamed shows on the NFL in Australia, in New Zealand, or around the world are going to build in an authentic Super Bowl blackout, a power surge in the middle of their final. Talk about last gasp. There's a few last gasps from me as that power hit the deck. All right. Benny G, insightful one here. Boaster has been quiet this year. It feels compared to his usual output. This is in response to what I said about the 49ers. Not sure if the stats back that up, but it feels like he has been quiet. Look, 10.5 regular season sacks is not near the number that we have. It's still good. Still, Larry David getting a lot of airtime of late. Curb Your Enthusiasm back. Pretty good. So that number it's pretty good. It's not at his usual level, but hey, 2 sacks. 2 sacks last week. Postseason production. He wouldn't be the first premier pass rusher that's had, they haven't had the massive numbers we're used to, and then come Super. Yeah, DeMarcus Ware had a good season, a strong season for the Denver Broncos when you won. Way back, the collective you there, when you won.
Part of it.
But what he did in the playoffs, borderline. I think number 1 in Super Bowl MVP that year was Von Miller. And I think number 2 was probably, in voting, was probably DeMarcus Ware. So we've seen those veteran players elevate to that. Benny's firing up some thoughts here. Only way Chiefs will win is if their wide receivers have learned to catch in the last 2 weeks. Okay, Benny, that's fine. They have. Marquez Valdez-Scantling has gone from run him out of town to run him downfield and let him come up with clutch grabs.
Yeah, but their momentum is a very real thing in games and on a macro sense. That's the type of thing where I think the week off allows us to look more of the season as a whole than we do recently. Both teams coming off of a bye week. It's good for fitness, but it compromises positive momentum. I do think there will be a drop of consequence somewhere for Kansas City.
Benny just letting us know that it's a long black extra shot here. So that is just hardline black coffee. He's halfway through it. So no wonder his work is strong in the comment section. He was also worried that we hadn't paid the data bill. No, we're running off the SB.
Mandalay Bay Convention Center.
There you go. And, clearly not a big fan of power converters because the international one I've got there, who knows, maybe that contributed to the power surge. It's a robot.
Golly.
It's a robot. What do you want? Okay. We've laid out the predictions. We've gone past the 40-minute mark. It is time to get on out of here. Yep. Bill has it 23-20 to the 49ers. I have it 26-20 to the Chiefs. You got 3 shows coming up over the next day before we even get to Super Bowl. Super Bowl game day itself. Plug those, and then for one last time, before the Super Bowl? Are we landing Starship? Are we parking?
We are
the Buick,
taking the keys and going inside the house.
There we go.
It is done for the time being until we get to draft season, which Laurie and I love to break down in the off season.
Oh yes.
But coming up this week on SportsCenter NFL Blitz, presented by Macca's, this afternoon, Saturday afternoon, Sunday afternoon, shows with Louis Riddick, Dan Orlovsky, Ryan Clark, myself, Nick Rewalt. It's a loaded staff, and we get sound from players here, chatting to Jordan Mailata, Mitch Wisnowski, CJ Stroud, Peyton, and Eli Manning. A whole lot of fun there. And then, of course, the coup de grace Monday morning from 9:30 a.m. from inside Allegiant Stadium, our Super Bowl preview show, all leading up to kickoff at 10:30 with Chris Fowler, Dan Orlovsky, Louis Riddick on the call. I'll be holding things down at halftime until Usher is ready to perform. I will usher in Usher.
Oh, there it is.
And, of course, 60 minutes of football. While we're all here, NFL history will be made in a town where they say time disappears. Time will stand still in the sporting world as the Chiefs and 49ers meet and make history at Allegiant Stadium, Super Bowl 58. That'll do it. My pal, Laurie Horesh. I am Phil Murphy, parking the bus for one more time during the NFL season. Thank you for joining us all year. This has been the NFL Brekkie Show. See you next time.